From the transatlantic slave trade to attempts at subduing black Africans, white supremacists and colonial powers came to a realization: black Africans were perceived as a threat to them. This perception was rooted in the fact that black Africans resisted cruelty, fought against oppression, and maintained their unity as a close-knit community. They never allowed colonial masters to devalue their black culture and customs. Despite relentless efforts by white supremacists to provoke black Africans into giving up their cultural identity and adopting a white lifestyle, they never succeeded. This unyielding resistance only strengthened the belief among white supremacists that black Africans were formidable and had the potential to challenge their dominance. In a new episode of Black Culture Diary, a channel dedicated to exploring lesser-known and hidden aspects of black history, culture, arts, and lost civilizations, this episode delves into the historical reasons behind why black Africans were perceived as a threat. The aim is to shed light on the origins of this hostility. Intelligence. Throughout history, black people faced deeply ingrained prejudice and discrimination, particularly concerning their intelligence. They were unjustly labeled as intellectually inferior, despite evidence to the contrary. These baseless stereotypes were used to justify the oppression and marginalization of black communities. During the era of slavery, slave owners and advocates of slavery propagated the false belief that black people were intellectually and morally inferior. This served as a justification for their enslavement, as they were wrongly deemed incapable of self-governance or equal participation in society. Pseudoscientific theories like phrenology and eugenics were also employed to bolster these racist ideologies further, suppressing black communities. Collective power and unity. The unity and collective power of black communities posed a significant threat to white supremacists and colonial powers. Black communities had shown their strength through resistance and revolts. The Haitian Revolution, for example, demonstrated how enslaved Africans united to overthrow their oppressors and establish an independent nation. In the 20th century, black people in the United States fought against racial segregation and systemic racism through peaceful protests and civil disobedience during the civil rights movement. Their collective actions challenged those who wanted to maintain discriminatory policies and segregation. Black communities also supported each other during difficult times, further exacerbating the perception that they were a threat to the status quo. Black people's immigration. Black people faced challenging circumstances in their home countries, leading some to immigrate to other nations. However, racists often feared that black immigrants would strain public services and pose a threat to their host nations. This fear was rooted in long-held prejudices and discriminatory rules. During the colonial era, black individuals faced harsh laws and policies designed to prevent their immigration to Western countries. These discriminatory rules were based on racist beliefs, and some people wanted to maintain homogeneity in their countries. At different points in history, concerns arose that black immigrants would compete for jobs and resources, which led to unfounded fears that they would burden public services. Despite a lack of evidence, these stereotypes persisted, leading to discrimination and segregation against black immigrants. At times, certain politicians and groups exploited these fears and prejudices. They used these ideas to persuade others that black immigrants posed a threat to the country's well-being and public services. These politicians aimed to establish unfair rules that would hinder the ability of black people to immigrate and settle in their new homes. Historic suppression, one day, would have repercussions. Black Africans, despite being marginalized and suppressed, were viewed as a looming threat. This perception stemmed from the harsh suppression they endured and the apprehension that this oppression could eventually lead to a powerful uprising. The echoes of slavery, colonialism, and racial discrimination generated profound anxiety among racist individuals in positions of power. They feared that the oppressed black population might one day unite to demand justice and equality. The scars left by suppression and discrimination ran deep within the hearts and souls of black communities, compelling them to strive for equality and social change. The fear of potential retribution and a determination to prevent any uprising fueled oppressive policies and systems designed to keep black people marginalized and powerless. Black people steadfastly held onto their culture and identity, even in the face of immense challenges. Despite facing relentless efforts by white supremacists to erase or alter their unique identity, these black communities demonstrated remarkable resilience and determination. They refused to relinquish their cultural heritage. It became evident that no matter how much black people were provoked to abandon their identity, they would not comply. This unwavering commitment posed a threat, as it indicated that black people would not embrace the white supremacist culture. During the era of slavery, when their bodies were bound in chains, enslaved black people clung fiercely to their cultural practices, traditions, and languages. Preserving their identity provided them with strength as they resisted the dehumanizing effects of slavery. Slave owners and white supremacists viewed this unwavering commitment as a threat to their control and power. They feared that these acts of defiance could disrupt their plans to dehumanize and commodify enslaved people. Throughout the oppressive conditions of slavery and the painful Jim Crow era that followed, black communities continued to pass down their cultural heritage from one generation to the next. Music, art, dance, oral traditions, and religious practices became the core of their identity and sense of community. Their refusal to abandon these cherished traditions represented a powerful rebellion against white supremacy and a resolute statement that they would not surrender to the dominant culture. In the face of segregation, discrimination, and attempts to force assimilation, black people never turned their backs on their culture. Instead, they embraced it as a source of strength and solidarity, forming close-knit communities that uplifted and supported one another. This unity became a thorn in the side of white supremacists, who trembled at the prospect of a strong and proud black community that could challenge their twisted racial hierarchy and oppressive systems. Black people resisted and ultimately defeated white supremacists. Despite enduring unimaginable hardships and being bound by the chains of bondage during slavery, a fire of resistance burned bright within them. This fire of resistance led to acts of bravery, such as the Haitian Revolution, where they rose up against their oppressors and shook the foundations of the unjust system. Even after the chains of slavery were broken, black communities faced discrimination, segregation, and violence. Yet, they refused to be silenced. During the era of the notorious Ku Klux Klan, a terrorist and racist organization that targeted black people, black communities gathered and launched an armed resistance against them. However, their story extends beyond armed resistance. Instead of succumbing to adversity, black people built strong and supportive communities that uplifted each other, creating a bond that shielded them from external threats. This unwavering resilience shattered the illusions of those seeking to oppress them, leaving them with trembling hearts. Throughout history, black people have consistently demonstrated their refusal to accept injustice. Their spirit and resistance have challenged and threatened the very core of racial discrimination. The struggle for equality continues to this day, as black individuals stand tall, declaring that they will never accept domination. The question remains whether white supremacists will cease viewing black Africans as a threat. The persistence of hostility towards black Africans is still evident today, with ongoing cases being reported. The importance of black Africans consolidating their strengths, such as intelligence, unity, close-knit communities, and collective action against atrocities, is emphasized. In conclusion, the texts highlight the historical factors contributing to the perception of black Africans as a threat, and the resilience and determination displayed by black communities in the face of oppression and discrimination. The struggle for equality and cultural preservation continues, and the importance of unity and resistance remains paramount.